saying particular things, to record ever so briefly a little bit about the best learning experience on that poster over there. And if you think of an idea about why that's the case, say what it is. If you have an idea, why did that happen? And what was your best teaching experience and why was that the best teaching experience? Because these are things that we want to try and replicate in the work that we're doing today. Replicate as you act as a learner and a teacher. Let's make this the best of many days. And as you think about teaching others the reasons why that worked, it helps to have those reasons in your pocket. So every person can write something. There's some pens up here on the table. We're going to conclude after this and move on to something else, so we're going to keep coming back to this. So if the best learning experience was learning to tip a canoe and write it and get back in, which is one of my best ever learning experiences, I would write tipping canoe and why, and it was because I felt physically strong. I felt physically powerful. I felt safe in the water because I could do that. I went out in the canoe, tip it over, turn it back up, and get in. I rock. But I'm not a big person, and I was raised poorly as a girl. I didn't do so well in the girly bits, but being strong never counted at that point. So some cryptic stuff. So please go up there and write. There's pens there. Everybody can write something, or you can dictate the answer to your partner. Say, right, please take a memo and put this stuff up there.
You know
our own experience or our partner's?
Yes and yes.
Yes.
So we work together.
I'm over here. Try to keep these instructions as loose as possible. I have to be over there saying that, so that everybody feels welcome. You're not trying to do something to meet my expectations. You're trying to put out some useful stuff.
For you?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, we have 3 groups, so it doesn't matter.
We'll have to work it.
Yes.
So what's the difference between teachers and a canoe builder?
No, just
Teachers don't tip.
Yeah.
They're cheap ones.
yes, that's true. And then apparently they always have big bags filled with pens and bad notes. That's how one of my sons describes it.
Really?
Probably quite true.
Goes to the Jan Arden concerts. He loves Jan Arden, but
Oh, yeah.
most of the population in the audience is
The
teachers.
teachers.
And I said, well, how do you know? He said, well, she says something, we all reach in these big bags and haul in a bunch of pens. He said, and then you can tell by the haircuts.
Yeah.
No, that's all right. That's what
Did I
kids
turn?
think.
Yes.
It's going
Oh,
on,
yeah.
and we never paid attention why. Well, they're really good. I think that calls
Did you just put me on here?
No, ER plus. Yeah, dash.
Is this
Yeah,
you?
dash ESO class.
Yeah, I do want to. Tanya, you can open up a branch paper if you want, if there's too much waiting. Oh, no.
Like literally exactly the same thing, comment and feedback from students. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just.
Yeah, all those things actually are in place that they enjoyed it. Yeah. That was it. Yeah, we got good feedback.
We got it.
Yeah.
I don't like the way I look.
Oh, no.
That's my rule.
No, that comes after lunch.
Thank you very much for those contributions. Would you open that manual that I gave you and lay it flat as it will? Yours doesn't have the surlocks, so it doesn't lie quite so flat. Pages 26 and 27.
26. 2627.
On page 26, the title is Employees Buy-in When. On page 27, the title is Effective Instructional Characteristics. If you took those 2 pages to represent powerful learning on the part of employees buying in and powerful instruction on the chart here, effective instructional characteristics, best teaching. Read what they have listed in the book compared to the kinds of things that you said about why these things work. intuitively and could lift out of your own stories that learning occurs best when the learner is involved, when the work is relevant to the individual. So what you were saying, Scotty, about the instructor being thrilled with the grain of the wood in the handle of the axe and the students waiting for the class to be over,
Yes.
that was one of those where the students saying, and this has what to do with me?
Exactly.
What does this have to do with me? So if it doesn't have anything to do with me, the very best you'll get out of me is that I'll politely wait till you're finished.
Now, is this on the exam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you'll get.
And
This
if
on the
they
exam?
care
And if the answer is no, then they just go and start having sexual fantasies instead. They just do whatever they do to stay inside themselves and not in connection with you.
Yeah.
So if you don't get that link that you all identified as when you know it's working, there is that link, you wasted everybody's time. So there is a story, and it's not an apocryphal one, it's in an article by a Canadian researcher named Ken Osborne, who was reporting on interviewing high school students about what they learned in various circumstances. And the one that sticks out for me mostly was a high school math class where the young man reported, what I learned in this math class was how to take notes from bad handwriting on an overhead projector in the dark. That's not how I want to be remembered as a teacher.
It's a good talent, though.
I guess, except they don't have overhead projectors anymore. They have these smart boards and things instead. But if our lives are precious for all of us and the passage of time is significant, then the passage of time needs to be treated with honor. I cannot expect you to wait for me to do something. I cannot expect you to do something that has no meaning for you. I can't ask you to participate with someone else without setting some ground rules where you can comfortably engage with your own ideas. So I specifically kept the instructions vague because I don't want you to satisfy my instructions. I want you to have an experience with other people in the class. So if I say the first person must speak for 3 1/2 minutes, the second person will take notes. The notes will then be divided into 3 categories, first, second, third, blah, blah, blah. I could have done that. I know how to do that. I'm a teacher. And you've had teachers like that. I wanted you to have a conversation. The conversations moved around. Each conversational pair was different. That's the way it should be. If you were telling stories to someone you met on a ferry or somebody that you meet in a class, you would do your own storytelling and you would disclose as much as you wanted to and no more. I couldn't ask you to say, give me your marks on grade 12 French or grade 9 math or whatever. That's an intrusion into your privacy. So the vague instructions are nerve-wracking for the learner. What the hell does the old bat want me to do? You're saying to yourself. And then you said, oh well, I got a few minutes, I'll just make something up, and that's what I want you to do. So sometimes precise instructions, while they may be perceived to be useful, foreclose right away on the establishment of voice. And you got louder and louder in your pair conversation. You started to very politely say, first date, what do you do in Sagittarius?
No, I'm not dating Travis.
Okay.
No.
Okay, and then when you came back and you're standing around doing the charting, you're making noise for 12 people.
Yeah.
So we're now at the noise for 12 people, we're beyond writing on the overhead projector, and we're going to keep working at that pace for the rest of the day. So, why 2 people? In training sessions with strangers, the bigger the group, the higher the level of anxiety. So the very first encounter should be private. I write something to myself, I look at the agenda, I think about and then the next one, 2 people. So we won't be presenting or speaking, you won't be presenting or speaking to the entire group until after lunch. We'll work solo and in pairs till you get warmed up, till you get to trust folks. I always arrange the groups in my classes. My classes always work, students always work in groups because we always learn in the mirror of the other and because it's more efficient, puts more teachers in. I arrange the groups so that people don't work with their friends, so they don't have a comfort level to hide behind. They work with someone different every class, so they learn they have a chance to learn a new territory every time. But here's how tragic it is. I then assign a host to the group. And often in the very beginning, so a class might have 25 to 30 students. The host for the first class is the person with the shortest last name. So first of all, someone says, this is prejudicial against Asians. I say, yes, it is. Stick with me. In 15 weeks, I'll be prejudiced against everyone, so just wait your turn. So then they might talk to one another. How many letters are in my last name? Yes? In our group, 2 people have the same number of letters in their last name. Oh. Well, how will we know who the hostess be? Well, I guess you'll have to go to Plan B. What's Plan B? I don't know. And they're unable, at first blush, to solve that problem. Who will be the leader when we both have the same number of letters? They are disabled by the control of the teacher. The teacher told us what to do and then we couldn't do it, so clearly our lives are over. After a little while, they figure out some things. So what would you do if you had 2 people with the same number of letters? What are some options for Plan B?
Rock, paper,
I've done
scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Totally
Got it.
paper, scissors.
That's just-
Yeah. What else?
Alphabet,
Alphabetical. What else?
letters in my first name.
First name, sure,
Age before beauty.
sure.
Women, ladies first.
Ladies first. Absolutely.
So there's an endless number of possibilities, including one that comes up every once in a while where someone volunteers and said, I'll do it. And eventually, over 15 weeks, everyone gets a turn. But on that first day, they come expecting the teacher will make all the decisions and I will either engage or acquiesce or just be silent. And that's the waiting. That's waiting for the class to be over. That's not how the time needs to be spent. So your energy as the teacher is to keep shifting the locus of control to the students in any way possible so that they bring their whole game. They tell all their stories. They'll often apologize, saying we got diverted to talk about our childhood. Like you could go anywhere without your childhood? The title of John Kabat-Zinn's book is Wherever You Go, There You Are. So everything that you are to this day, you bring. And if you're in a class with a teacher who has half a brain, they will make you work all of that stuff. Why would you leave half your tools in the truck? I'm just going to do everything with this one multi-screwdriver. I'm not going to use any of that other stuff. It's just wasteful. And there's not enough time for us to be wasteful. So, you have all of the adjudication tools that you need, and you know that you are successful. So we've already crossed off number 1. We've shared success stories. So if you're one of those people who likes to cross things off, to know that you've got some momentum happening, I'm a list maker. When I make a list, the first thing I put is make list. I make the list and I cross that first one off. I am good. I've got momentum. Then sometimes I've mostly got my my list, and then I cut out the corners of my book, and then when I've done the whole section, I put a line through it like that. And then sometimes I've got one hanger on here, I'm not getting anywhere, I write BF on that, move it over to the next list and put a line through there. So I just make up my own rules about momentum, because I'm addicted to momentum.
So what does BF stand for?
Bring forward.
Oh.
That's what I
Just
was
going there.
It's a federal government.
Bring food, I like that
tool.
one better.
We'll just BF that, meaning put it off till later.
Mm.
That's so I don't pretend that I've forgotten. Just slide it over onto the next page. It's all a mug's game of making achievable goals. I make my own goals and I construct them such that I hope to achieve them. So, so far we've done talking, charting, moving, partnering. We're going to do more partnering. We're going to work with some other kinds of things. I'm not suggesting that that the techniques that I will use are the best way. I'm trying to demonstrate that whatever it is you want to accomplish, there's lots of different ways that you can do it. We're foreclosed by being in a room like this. We don't have much flexibility in terms of furniture. We don't have enough time to build things or draw things necessarily, but we're going to go to the edges as best we can to show that if you're not noticing best learning and best teaching with one technique, change your technique. Don't blame the student. Change the approach. If the shoe is pinching your foot, you don't take the shoe off and yell at it or put it in the hallway. you typically buy a different size of shoe or a different style or something. Keep that shoe idea in mind when you're thinking about the way you work with students. So I'm going this time to ask Tammy and Scotty to work together, and John and Mary Jo. You two worked together before, Travis and Tanya?
No, not really.
Several years ago.
Yes, quite a bit.
So we're shifting over to the red line, encourage student participation. This is one of the things that Shirley asked me to do that apparently people had asked her on several occasions. What are things that we can do to encourage participation? Because a lot of people think that the job is just to sit in the seat until the time is up, waiting for the class to end. So we're going to work with some teaching strategies to encourage participation. And again, you're going to work with a partner. The reason for working with a partner is you're not going to agree necessarily, which means you're going to have to open up the possibility that there's a way other than yours. Or no. Because that's often the case with learners. They have a way, it isn't your way, so adapt. So you're going to have to do some negotiating and some comparing and some storytelling and disclosing. So each of you is going to get an envelope here, and it's got little pieces of paper in it. I'm a baseball fan. I do a lot of my teacher preparation while the baseball game's on because baseball's very slow and boring. So I cut a lot of little pieces of paper, various kinds. So you're going to get, there's 16 things in here. These are all teaching techniques, instructional strategies we call them in the ed biz. They're ways to introduce activities, possibilities to students. So you each get one envelope, and I want you to sort them in two piles. One pile is, yeah, I do that. And the other pile is, no, I don't do that. And, or I haven't done that yet. So you're going to have two piles. Probably the pile of things I do will be smaller than the pile of things that I don't yet do, but it doesn't matter, it's not a competition. So you're going to sort them in two piles, and then your partner is going to have sorted his or her into two piles. And then first of all, look at the piles of things that you do. What do you both do? So reinforce those things that you have in common. And then start a bit of a explore, as Pooh Bear would call it. Explore the ones you haven't done. Could I do that? How could I do that? In my teaching circumstance, or my coaching circumstance, or my organizational circumstance, how could I do that? It's kind of like trying a new food. What is that going to taste like? In the end, everything tastes like chicken, so you can just adapt to that. But the first thing you're going to do as an individual, I do this, I don't do this, two piles. Then with your partner, look at what you both do and reinforce for one another. Why do I keep doing this? How do I know this works, or is it just habitual, or is it the only thing I know how to do? So, the forward range concept. And then move over to the we don't do that yet pile and go on explore. You don't have to do anything with it more than just talk about it with your partner. How might this work? Okay, so you need to clear some space, and so you can have two piles. And you might want to move and be near the partner that I assigned you. Likewise, if you want to do this with a stand-up meeting, you can, or use the chairs or whatever. I'm imagining 30 minutes for this, but I will watch you and adjust to the level of interest and noise in the room. And then we'll have a coffee break in case you need to be motivated. We call that learning. You can
Yeah,
stay.
I can't do that when I put it in my go-to file, that's
Usually
usually
that.
in fact.
Okay.
Probably do that.
Yes, I'll teach you to do that.
Or
Q&A.
ask if there's
Okay,
anybody-
so I'll teach you how to do that.
So what's wrong?
Yeah, I'll teach you how to do that.
Any questions?
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I just get to take away these files. These are the ones that we have to go over. So you can teach me these
Right,
ones,
you're
right?
gonna teach me these ones.
I teach you these ones. Yes.
You
Okay.
teach me these ones, I teach you these ones. Okay, so you're gonna teach me these ones.
Okay.
When you work
Demonstrate your journal record,
Chevron,
learners write down questions, person should be able to answer the
and you know what a
answers to the
triple
topic.
phosphate is? If you went to see
The learner draws questions and tries to answer them. So this is kind of something we can go into rescue. And this is
really showing up
kind of
with what
affecting
you
how
were
I
doing.
did and I I tried to incorporate it, but he does a much better job at it.
Yeah.
It's just a little, he's a little quirky. So during his lectures, he gets people to get through the papers.
But I'm getting more into it.
Why don't we like
The easiest way to explain this is he just kind of.
That doesn't feel good, I would avoid it on the spot.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could guess.
So
Because that often this can be exploring the topic.
it's very odd when you're teaching stuff. No, it- the way he does it, so, okay. So he starts to the topic.
Carry on then.
And
We both did that.
he wants you to
You had a question?
Yeah.
question, I guess the easiest way to explain it is our terms to be great questions that you don't really understand, but once you go over,
I got hung up on the empirical level, share the list.
Yeah, I don't do that, but
he just the way he does it is good. And he's,
maybe groups.
but he
I probably do, yeah, you know.
does them twofold. One, he wants you to create notes of things that you're understanding,
In order, I got and jigsaw? Okay.
or not quotes, but questions that he's going through that you can find valuable and you can teach other people, and share that information. So it's kind of more like taking notes, but in question format. And I've tried to duplicate it into smaller sessions. I'm not a big fan, I just tried it, and I just can't create the way that he does it. But he wants you to,
So he takes notes, but he really has a question.
as in
These
questions,
these
so
around
you
like
can
playing
go
cards.
there.
I do that. Oh yeah, I'm over there. I'm keeping this one. I'm gonna try
Like,
this later.
he's very much
This is great.
a veteran.
Does he do this drawing afterwards?
No.
And then have other students answer his questions?
No, he wants you to almost, no, it's okay. That was a question. Elaine,
Yes. Give it some.
yeah, this one here,
And the other one was?
review your thoughts on your
So, in a typical classroom setting,
flashing fly in the
the
wall.
teacher asks this
I
question,
don't do that now, but I.
for
did
which
in one
he or
of
she
the-
already knows the answer, and there is a one right answer, and asks the student to tell the teacher what they already know,
It's similar, but you've got
which is a
the-
complete waste of the question as pedagogical opportunity.
As a witch?
Pedagogical opportunity, a chance to learn something.
Okay, never heard of that before, ever.
It's sort of a way.
You
Um,
know, a lot of,
It's
have
a great copy.
Yeah.
When you don't have one hammer on the job site and you take turns using it,
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah,
doing
we
all
get-
their stuff.
Yeah, we get that, so we
Yeah.
understand that teaching.
Yeah,
Yeah, is the best way to
So
work.
these are
But
all
just like how to make that
So
calculation.
this is, so would you say these are very similar?
Very similar. They're all
So-
very similar.
I would say, like, I try to do Q and A's all the time, like, questions, I try to engage the students as much as possible.
Post a big question and have people come in and jot down answers as we go, and everybody go by and check off, put your check mark beside an answer that I think is okay. There's a bazillion ways to do it.
Yeah.
These are all the ones I
Oh, well,
found.
another
Facebook
Facebook
games.
was done in other ones.
So those to me are very similar.
Yeah, yeah.
So this would,
Yeah.
Better not mix them up. Oh, you
okay,
can,
so
they're
Q and
yours.
A's, yeah.
We get to keep these.
Oh, brilliant.
Definitely don't mix them up.
So, going back to this, going back to search and rescue, so a better way to explain it now that I've clarified it is so that he goes and teaches a lesson, and then without him giving you the answer, he wants you to be able to, okay, what did I just do? And I just gave you a demonstration on navigation, and you plotted a course to the next point, and the next point is gonna be X, Y, Z over there.
But then I'm good.
And so he'll get you guys to write that down, and then he'll put that for the next session of people and stuff like that. So he's very much just
I'm not gonna sweat. It's just that's the way.
pass the information on to me. Okay.
So that's the demonstration one.
Is she still?
So is that,
Okay,
so
and
now
then
we've done that one, so that's
add
managing.
something.
That's
I don't know what we're doing here, but.
Okay, so let's do general.
We've got a nice
Let's
little.
talk about important teachers.
Right.
Okay, so this is something that we do in for JHAs. And so it's
Me too.
more just like
And I
we're
used to have
doing
little
John
pieces of paper,
Houser
then I used those pieces of paper. So now I have this book. And I work backwards and forwards, certain things coming in from the back. Then I poured my coffee into a briefcase,
and
and
they're just
which was
moving
nice, and then I
around.
worked forward for those
My
hours.
problem is I have
different aspects of
And one at a
JHA as they're
time. I keep
talking
the
about
others.
it, so that's not you, you're filling out, but
So what do
you're
we do with this?
engaging everybody else.
I'm asking that for instructions.
Yeah, everybody adds something, right, this is a procedure, okay, you just have one talk about it, okay, now pass on, next time.
What to call this section to a close with a couple of comments and some questions for you. But over here, I want to put a word on that exercise that you were doing and on a whole bunch of things. It's called repertoire. Good teachers have repertoire. Means they got 16 or 20, you've got 16 because that's then around the baseball games. So 16 or 25 or 1,000 ways to do things. It's like you have several recipe books for feeding various numbers of people. You don't always make the eggs the same way because people get bored. Or you don't always make eggs because some people are allergic or whatever, and you have repertoire. We realize that with beginning teachers, when the class is going very well, they think they're wonderful, and when the class doesn't go well, they revert to power because they don't have repertoire. They don't have enough other tricks, other options, other possibilities, and they get anxious. So then they start arguing from the position of power. And that's where you can tell a novice from an experienced person. An experienced person has repertoire. There is nothing magical about these little gray pieces of paper, except it gives you and your partner some material to work with. This is not the whole of a teaching repertoire. It's not necessarily applicable to your area of work. What is important is that you develop repertoire so that when you, and this is the segue to our next step on feedback, which we'll do after coffee. When you observe your students responding really well to an activity that keeps showing up in the best learning and you keep having the best teaching experience, do that again. But don't just do that. Keep looking to expand your repertoire just in case somebody comes who doesn't respond to that idea. The more repertoire you have, the more you observe, the more you are, as my mentor and dream teacher Maxine Green says, the more wide awake you are to other possibilities, the better your students will perform because you'll find a way to connect with them. So you've connected with your partner on things that you've already done. You can take the envelope and the little gray pieces with you. But what I want you to do on your way to coffee is to write on the wall up there on the way to the coffee station the things that you do. You can use the titles that I used on the little cards. If someone's already written a title that you use, just put a check mark beside it. And then we'll take a look at what the repertoire map is for this particular group. You'll get a sense from reading that I do this list. What do people use that are in your line of work? Because that's a good thing to copy. You're not teaching acrobatics necessarily, so you're not doing a lot of trust exercises necessarily, but you might be if you were. So take your I do this list and make sure that your things either get written in your own hand up there or a check mark beside that if somebody already written it before you got there. Grab a coffee. It's 10:15. We'll reconvene about 10:30 and move on to feedback and preparation for your lessons.
Elaine, what time would you like to have lunch break?
We just had breakfast. Who's ready for lunch?
But
In terms of our class. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
only because we have to pre-order and
Yes.
we have to put our order in an hour ahead of time.
Well, could we say 12 in the name of tradition?
Absolutely. So
Does that
sometime during the break, could you write down what you would like for lunch on this piece of paper and The soup of the day is Thai beef, and it is gluten-free.
Okay.
Okay? So this will be right here.
So there's some pens beside the coffee station for writing on the I do this list. Thank you. Thank you for managing our general well-being and weight gain.
Yeah, no problem.
I already ate my day's worth of calories before breakfast.
I had family in Cleveland from California this morning.
Oh.
So it was a little tough to sleep early.
Well, there's fruit and very stale buns
Yeah.
over there.
Well,
Moderate
it was
stale
good.
buns. So going right, I do this. Okay. I do
So
this.
it's going right.
Yes.
Did your instructions include that we were supposed to complete something in the book?
No, up on the wall.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But we saw everybody writing in their books.
Who knows what they were doing?
We're just writing in a book.
They were writing in their books. They could be composing a grocery list.
That's what we're doing. This is my grocery list. I don't do, I wanna do.
Kind of nerve-wracking having here.
I know.
Scotty, it's interesting, what you're talking about is an expectation that we have of something in the education literature called time on task.
Mm.
Are people doing what I assign them to do? And
What happened to me right just now was, am I not doing something I
exactly,
was supposed to do?
exactly. So you have that anxiety. Most teachers think that they set the conditions of what people are gonna work on, which is utter hubris. It's just arrogance of a high order. There's no more you working on my agenda than you moving into my house for the day.
That's right.
So I have to give space to bringing to a common place what you know and do and care about, and what I know and do and care about. And if you have a family member who's ill, or people are arriving from away from Christmas vacation, or your daughter-in-law is about to have a baby, your attention is gonna come and go from my agenda.
I've been through that.
Yeah, and they know never mind mine.
No.
So I'm happy to answer your question, as long as the awareness is that this is not an expectation that everybody's gonna be doing the same thing all the time. Especially that everybody's gonna be doing what I say.
I'll do
I'll
that.
give you the pink pen.
Pink one.
So if your word is already up there, just put a check mark beside it. I do that, I do that, I do that.
So I just put them all away. I had them all in my nice little
You can take those if you got totally distracted.
Yeah, we get to keep these?
Yeah.
Good.
And the envelope.
I was gonna ask, I didn't know if we have one.
Well, it's winter ball season, so not much is televised. I can't afford to go to Puerto Rico. But it's almost spring training, starts in January. It's my answering machine message changes with the seasons. It's spring training more than my heart.
Yeah.
Thomas Boswell is a wonderful fiction writer, wrote a book called How Life Imitates the World Series. It was just quite lovely. Baseball has the best writers of all the sports. There are some people who write about football, but most of the fiction writers or philosophical writers write about baseball. But his argument is that baseball is the only sport that has the capacity to change the movement of time. It's because an inning is defined by 3 batters up, 3 batters down, but it can last from
forever, yeah.
3 batters to through the order any number of times. And so an inning itself can be a few minutes to half an hour. And then a game can be any number of innings, typically 9, but most recently in the majors, 17 inning game.
Yeah.
The only person that didn't call in the pitch was me. And it just it has an elasticity like life. You know how life moves faster or slower depending on your emotional connection with that event? Both joy and sorrow are different paces.
Time is elastic.
Yeah, time is
Yeah.
elastic.
No question.
And so he writes about baseball having that capacity to make obvious the elasticity of time, which Einstein, that was his relativity.
It's darker than that.
Anti-gravity, and all the sci-fi writers as well. Space-time continuum and the wormhole and through into the alpha quadrant, all those concepts are now represented in modern physics. But they first occurred in the brains of science fiction writers who said, this ain't the life I'm in. So the kids on the short bus who see and hear and find the world different. That's where the validation is.
And I love that story, how it's
So, there you go. And plus I sit in front of the deli and I things.
And as we say, time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly, yep, yep, yeah, it does. So you're going to record yourself?
I am. Well, me and John are very similar.
You and John are
Similar.
Did you put yourself up here?
Yeah, I did the pink.
You're pink, how lovely.
I added pink and then
Oh,
Pink is
checked.
good.
we're the pink team.
Pink is good.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Do you guys have any ideas for like instructor feedback forms that you guys want for the BCCSA? Thinking about changing the format so you guys can view it. Or it's more like anonymous, I guess.
Like online, you mean? And we don't see them right now.
Yeah. For core you don't, but for the other ones it's a paper form, right? But it's
Yeah.
not anonymous, which is a problem.
Is it a problem?
I don't know. Maybe they're not as
Embarrassing.
honest.
So if you read all of the handwritten ones and then you
They're
read,
more honest with it.
are they more honest with the
Online.
computer ones?
Yeah.
They are?
Or more
Because-
detailed.
More detailed?
I think it's for core because it's required though, because it's a little different though.
Oh, you require them to fill it out?
Yeah, or they think it's required, so
Okay.
they do.
Scotty, he did come and
Okay,
change
well,
the
so that was
coffee,
my
so
next
we're not
question
down
is
to
how many
town
people
to
actually have it?
Bill's water.
Normally when online comes.
brought him
you
in
get
your
to-
pot.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll refresh my keys when I do. Yeah.
So could you force them to do it though? You don't, it's a must.
Yeah. So I don't know what, we should change the format or not, or just leave it the way.
Somebody should do it online. If you make it a must.
Yeah.
If you make it a
You
must,
still
then there's a
lose
difference.
10% of people, I think.
Yeah. This is the only thing about
Still,
that
the
writing
still
class,
coming
they're
down.
there.
You don't have to take a vote.
They can do it right then and there. If you send them a survey, it's on their own time, that's signed.
I'm taking a vote, Mom.
Then at the end of the
Yeah, you
day,
are.
sometimes you
They
have
were
to start
paid.
those, they're check marking stuff. But, if the instructor gives enough time, then it's not an issue. But
Yeah.
then the instructor, if you're gonna do a handwritten.
I should have had a vote.
Then the instructor actually has to speak, my experience is the instructor has to say, hey.
You're driving?
Just.
It was good when I came.
You could just say here's your evaluation function.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's what it looks like right now.
So the instructor needs to drive, to drive it.
And bridges are
But
particularly.
if you're more, if you're finding it that you're getting almost 100%, people are filling them out after the fact that you're making it mandatory and
Okay.
becoming more
BCC.
detailed and more
Yeah.
accurate, then go on.
Yeah.
I've never done online, so I have no idea.
Have you seen their before?
Because it like,
Well,
every
every,
like one
just to
sentence
give you
is
a
for
clue
like the
about
feedback
the
form I
general
feel like,
status,
but the
and every
online one for
amphitheater
core,
is
it's like
named after a big
paragraphs.
forest
I mean,
company.
Not every one of them.
Because they're also tied through,
The
people don't
UBC
like to
channel.
write
Handwritten
pages.
and like, I was thinking like
It's got a
the form, but
two-story
I don't know.
atrium kind of
Yeah,
log,
and
lots of
technically
places
it's
to
probably
gather.
better. And some people do it on the
Marbles,
phone if they can.
wood paneling of various
Is it a link
kinds
you
up
give
all the walls.
Oh,
It
if I
really
can
is
make
a
it all
showpiece
wood.
for the wood, wood industry.
Next floor
It's
option.
quite beautiful.
Because if you do a,
And
I know
tall,
sometimes I get
many
monthly
stories
surveys
off
with them,
above it.
and so I can just use my phone, my iPad, or my computer, depending on what I'm doing, just check mark.
Yeah. Well, in the huts, I'm still in a hut.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think education is the lowest rung on the totem pole.
When it says,
I didn't
please
know
list,
him.
it'll take 10
I
minutes.
did all of my
When it says it'll take 2
study
minutes,
at
3 minutes, I'll do it. As soon as it gets 5,
in the
I'm gonna check it out.
Good point. So I'll have to make it bigger and actually time it.
I don't mind doing a couple minutes, but if you tell me it'll take 7 to 10 minutes, forget it. I don't know.
Okay.
It's not just like the instructor feedback, we want feedback on the
He
course
was
too,
one
like.
of the really
applicable to
enthusiastic
them and
teachers
what they're
because
gonna
he
do
was so
next.
enthusiastic.
And like with the paper
That's
form, we
fabulous.
don't do anything with it
Yeah.
because it's now it's paperback and it's time to be.
I was listening to your story of
it,
your
so
owner.
we have to switch to the
Oh, I
online.
can do that.
His name was Craig Gillis.
But is it possible for
Came in
us
first
to
day.
know, 'cause we.
Yeah, that would be the
you know,
biggest thing, would be, like, I don't, I'm gonna explore different options, like Google Forms or something, like, making it so like, they can, it'll be anonymous, but like,
He
you
did
can
teach
still
a
see
3-hour
Comments.
Comments
Yeah.
section.
without saying anything. Then we came back the next day and he said, so what do you make of that? I
Yeah.
didn't have
They really
lyrics.
I know.
don't
I
like it,
wanted to
yes.
It's
teach
what the
subsequently is a
It's what the
particular
student thinks
field of
it is
study, not
important.
teaching with your mouth shut.
And,
As teachers,
you know, if you have,
tend
oh,
to
you always have one
do a
student
lot of
that doesn't
blather,
like something,
where
she can't please everybody.
action is with the
And,
students, it's
but
with the
they can help
students, it's
try
with
to
the
take the
students. I have to keep saying that, because I get all wrapped up in my story.
Yes,
And then I know
And,
to speak to them.
and my right answers. And
But as
Parker
an
Palmer,
instructor,
who's a
you know, the
scholar whose
conferences
work
or
I followed,
electronic
has done a lot of work in
devices and
post-sec
switch,
shifting to loss of control, but he
you know,
says
all the numbers that
one
were
of his
given,
books,
and then all the written comments that
it all works
sent.
until
Even
one
for
of the students
conferences?
says something in there
But
That's pretty valuable.
It is pretty valuable.
that I
You
know
don't
is
get- you don't get
absolutely wrong.
huge feedback.
So then my question is, how long do I wait to smite them with
No,
the
not
sword?
required.
Because it's soon as
I think it is.
Well, yeah, as long as
there's
it's
trust.
yeah, that's
So he says,
fabulous.
do I wait till another student
I have to
corrects?
talk to Shirley about that.
Do I wait a lesson and see if percolating on the
Yeah,
idea
'cause, you know, a lot of
causes
instructors
different things
don't.
to
I mean,
happen?
even
How
for me,
long do
it's
I
very
stay
difficult for
true
the instructor
to my
instructor.
promise to
But I
myself
need to get
as
a
opposed to
number
my
one,
promise to the
right?
answer?
Not just let them go.
And it's
What
a
is it
pretty
about
scary thing, like what people are going down,
And
what you
the
know
wrong
with your
road.
own children, if they're going down the wrong road, what do you do? It's, there's no single right answer to that, it depends.
Yeah.
Depends on
And that's how our
the
world is right now. It's like a scale
Depends
of
on
1 to
how
5.
much
Like,
trust you can build
Yeah.
in the community,
You gotta go.
where
But
you might say, you know,
Or
that's
what needs improvement.
absolutely right, and you have the courage and the confidence to say that, and you don't need
they would have been
Parker Palmer to interview with the sword of truth, because
Sometimes
you've
it's-
developed
sometimes a lot of
a
instructors
trust
want to
with each other, but man, that's hard.
for the core when we see that.
Would you see that a lot? Yeah, I bet you
Oh,
do.
yeah.
My beginning,
Yeah.
It depends on
It's tough.
the situation.
Well, I'm thinking about making it
Really
so
does.
You can smite them with the sword.
I want to spend a lot more time on it.
Immediately. For example, if your chair in a meeting.
That's different.
Because, you know, yeah,
The more honest.
put the hand up when to talk a second time to the
Yeah.
motion. Sorry, can't do that. Since when? Well, since
Robert's Rules of Order.
Robert wrote his rules.
Yeah. But I doesn't tell us anything.
That-
Sometimes you get,
Yeah, thank you for that feedback.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Kind of.
Yeah, I just figured it down. Remember it in the year.
you know,
Where's the menu we're supposed to look at?
Oh, yeah.
I stole it.
Oh.
What was the soup at the game?
I didn't hear it. Something that was weed free.
Thai
beef.
beef.
What was it?
Thai beef.
Thai beef.
Like Thai beef.
Beef.
Oh, beef.
You guys give it a dig around.
local, and really, like, she was trying to get off the conversation. She was having chicken.
Andre.
Cheese. And she's very local. And I had seen her speak, heard her speak at another. She went through her routine in the class. And, but she kept apologizing. And then after the class, she apologized. I said, it was fine. You know, and I actually said it out loud. It's fine, it's okay. You're having a tough day. Just take your time, whatever you need to do. And I just went with it instead of reacting to it. And my reaction was to say it's okay. So then it was okay for everybody, and it was okay for her. And she forgave herself. It was okay.
And that is a signal of you as an experienced education for lunch and no need for power. If you have
Yeah.
a need for power, which might be even teachers do, they don't have much repertoire, so they gotta keep control, then they can't work any of that kind of thing. They can't relax into the, you're having a bad day, create space for you.
And
It's,
they'll
I'm in
let
charge here.
themselves give in to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah, it always is, no.
What else?
No, that's it.
But you get non-trade
No, that's not bad.
Trained as a, to do workshops on harassment, sexual harassment. And I had a Zoom.
A beverage?
And I did all the
no,
elementary
it's
schools,
water.
and secondary school, and that Zoom.
Just gonna have water.
So I was in this elementary school, and the principal did everything in his power to be
I'm gonna go ask what you're doing.
Yeah, Scott, you know what, as far as I'm concerned, harass is still 2 words.
I'll come with you.
That's in front of us, mostly female.
Excuse
So, well, that's not what we're here about, yeah. And I just kept on.
Guys, if you trip and fall.
I think you're more of a guide than
You know, I knew I wouldn't win that one. And of course, he's trying to test his power as the little Hitler of this elementary school. So I just took my focus off him and just kept on with what it was I had to do. And got through it.
But the centering of you and the confidence of you as an individual is what underlies
their ability to do that. When we get stuck in knowing the content, showing how smart we are, then we're really vulnerable to that. And if we are learners and we keep a curious stance, we say, well, what's interesting about this? He's obviously doing it, it's contrary to our goals, that's interesting. But we have our goals,
Yeah.
well, that's interesting, but we're here. Well, that's interesting, but. And the learner stance is, that's interesting.
When I was a health and safety coordinator for the city of Rutgers, I used to have to go and speak like to the entire electric department for city police. Right. And I used to have to go and speak to
They're not by
them
me.
in the gym at the university. You know, they were fun.
Oh, yeah.
The electric departments are because I'm up there speaking and talking about our health and safety program, what we're doing, and all of a sudden, like, he's making comments towards me. I mean, I didn't know where this was coming from or why or anything. And the same with the public works. I mean, they were so controlling